Hello, my co-highs. Hope you're all doing well. I am your host, Tyranno Senpai, and welcome back to another Dinosauria reaction with... Oh, let me point to them. Lorana and... Meerkat. There. Hello!
Hello.
Today we're reacting to the making of Terrible Lizard, as well as we're going to be taking a look at Ivan Dutch's channel to see how he composed for Terrible Lizard. This is kind of a channel tradition, although this reacting to the soundtrack thing is new, and we're kind of lumping it in with this video. So, I'm not overworked to death, and also so you don't just get 3 videos straight of Dinosauria. Anyway, I think with all that said, I think we're ready to get started.
Hello, my name is David, and a few years ago I created my Dinosauria animated series.
This takes me back.
This was an enormous project requiring an almost unfathomable amount of work. Tons of research, tons of drawings, a gigantic sketchbook, and even a collection of large clay sculptures, which all culminated into the 5 finished animated short films themselves.
That we all love with all our heart.
Yes, yes.
The Dinosauria series was a massive undertaking, but it was without a doubt the happiest I've ever been creating anything.
Wow.
So now I'm doing it all over again. Only this time, bigger and better.
Bold declaration. Hey, the sculpture!
Yay!
I am so happy he brought them back.
I am too. They are gorgeous. Eee.
There were hundreds of ideas I had for the first volume of Dinosauria films back in 2020. One of the very first ideas I came up with was going to be about Spinosaurus. This scrap
I remember this.
we called Through the Ages, and was going to take the viewer from the generic tail-dragging carnosaur of 1912 all the way up to the semi-aquatic fish eater of 2020. Although this film was cancelled, the concept
Wow.
of taking the audience on a virtual history lesson through our ever-evolving understanding of these animals really stuck with me.
That looks like a poster from a movie.
Years later, in 2024, I finally decided to revisit the concept with what would eventually become Terrible Lizards.
I completely forgot that scrap
2024
short film
was the 200th
was a thing.
anniversary of our
Well, was
very
gonna be a
first
thing.
Dinosaur. This was a gigantic, carnivorous, prehistoric reptile yet unknown
Squirrel.
to science that the Victorians named Megalosaurus. Here is a cast of the lectotype. This dentary, plus some isolated teeth and perhaps a piece of the hip, but I'm not sure if we discovered that yet, was all they had to reconstruct this species. This life-size statue in Crystal Palace Park in London is how we believed Megalosaurus looked 200 years ago.
God.
18 years after that, we had the formation of Dinosauria itself, which classified Iguanodon, Hylaeosaurus, and Megalosaurus
Hey, I got it right. Hylaeosaurus.
right now as a distinct
Yay!
clade within the fossil record. These were our first dinosaurs. This was, and still is, Dinosauria, and the perfect
Geese.
cast to help reimagine my old Through the Ages idea.
Alright, sculpture time.
For each of
Woohoo!
my Dinosauria films, I've made large clay sculptures of the star species. For Terrible Lizards, I decided to sculpt a Megalosaurus.
I think I need to turn on my
This
light.
piece with a wire framework and balled up aluminium foil to form what would eventually become the sculpture's legs and torso. I also rolled out some sausagey arms, a long tail, and the general shape of the upper and lower jaws. I use DAS air drying clay for my sculptures, but I made sure to use Milliput instead to bulk out the legs of this particular piece. Milliput is an epoxy putty, and it's a lot more durable than clay, and with Megalosaurus being a biped, it's Its skinny wee legs needed all the structural support I could give them.
This is
After
also
all
the
was
stuff that Marco
secured,
uses.
I then attached the arms
Yep.
and the tail and began bulking out the rest of the animal.
Toes.
I sculpted the final skin details of this piece using a multitude of different techniques. Most of the skin of this sculpture is scaly, so I made these simple, scaly texture stamps. But I also made these large, scaly texture plates, which I used to quickly create large patches of dinosaur skin to then wrap around the model. These
Look at it!
patches aren't usually convincing enough
It's
for me, so
awesome.
It's
I also
gorgeous.
with more traditional sculpting tools to carve out whatever extra details I need. For this Megalosaurus in particular, I also wanted it to have a jacket of feathers running down its back, which I sculpted in last.
I hope he's got a reasonable explanation for that.
Once I was happy with the
He
finished
just-
product, I primed it with a
Especially
spray,
given
painted it
that
with acrylic paints and brushes,
Megalosaurus
and of course,
is not a
I
Celerosaur,
the piece before
like
I spread all
T-Rex.
my work away with a clear matte spray.
Yes, sing it!
I think the final
Oh,
piece
my-
is nice enough.
That sculpture's beautiful.
I particularly like the unorthodox purple colour. All of my Volume 1 sculptures were painted quite naturally and posed quite peacefully, so I thought a more aggressive pose with vivid colours would be a really nice change of pace.
I see a cloaca.
It's just a bit of a shame.
Of course you would notice that.
It's ugly.
That's how you know it's scientifically accurate.
Literally,
If it has a cloaca.
Sculpting this T-Rex, which was over 4 years ago, and I think it really shows with this Megalosaurus.
That was the problem with the Lion King lions. They weren't biologically accurate because of that one
The
detail.
head just turned
Well,
out too
never
weird and
mind.
blobby and boxy.
I'm not gonna go there.
Which is honestly fine.
Yeah.
It's not really why I made these sculptures. You see, originally,
I'm
I made
just
these
glad to see they
understanding
weathered out the years.
But this was never really a necessary animation step.
Like they all stayed in one piece.
Dinosaurs. However,
True.
the more sculptures I made for Dinosauria Volume 1, the more I found this process to be pretty
Ooh, cat!
necessary. You
Kitty!
see, making these animations takes a very, very long time. All on my own, months, if not years of work spent almost entirely in front of a computer screen. It can get really bad. But creating these sculptures physically with my hands with clay and paint breaks up that monotony and really helps keep these, frankly, enormous Dinosauria projects from becoming too overwhelming. So yeah, I love making these big clay things, even if they turn out not the best. And I'll keep making them for each and every Dinosauria film I create.
Woohoo! So there's more of them coming.
Nice. Yay!
Alright, featured species. Oh, is that a... We got some Walking with Dinosaur toys.
Age of Terrible Lizards, we see all three dinosaurs we had back at the dawn of Dinosauria. Iguanodon, Hylaeosaurus, and Megalosaurus. These designs were heavily based on the life-size statues designed by Benjamin Waterhouse Hawkins that still stand in Crystal Palace Park today.
I would love to see
In
this at
fact,
some point.
The opening 2 shots of this film are a direct reference to these cornerstone pieces of paleohistory. These
Nice.
depictions may seem incredibly outdated today, and they are, but it's very important to remember that the Victorians had very little to work from when trying to reconstruct these animals. Not only were the fossils super fragmentary, but back in 1842, science just wasn't the same as it is today. This is a time before paleontology, before evolution by natural selection, and before the modern concept of extinction.
Tis important to remember.
I think,
Mhm.
given the constraints of the time, these reconstructions are actually quite inspired. Even if they did infamously put Iguanodon's thumb spike on the tip of its nose.
That's hilarious.
That was
In
adorable.
the second stage of the film, we jump forward to around the 1950s. Our knowledge of dinosaurs has come a long way by this point. As far as Iguanodon is concerned, we've gone from just some teeth and a thumb spike to multiple, beautifully preserved and fully articulated specimens thanks to the Bernissart mines in Belgium.
Its head looks like a horse.
However, dinosaurs at
It
this
does.
period were still portrayed as very cold-blooded and lizard-like. though standing upright and dragging their tails. A big inspiration for this iguanodon design in particular was in fact this old Invicta model.
Oh!
He's a charming little guy who was very scientifically accurate for his time. Unlike Iguanodon, which was blessed with multiple complete skeletons by the 1900s, Megalosaurus was just as fragmentary as ever. In fact, the genus had become a wastebasket taxon with a frankly preposterous number of species attributed to it.
Oh yeah, and Carcharodontosaurus and Ceratosaurus were lumped in with Megalosaurus at some point.
Picked Megalosaurus as a super generic, almost undiagnosable chimera of what would be called a carnosaur at the time.
Monkey.
Most of the inspiration for this
Valley of
design,
Guanji.
surprisingly, came from the stop-motion effects of Willis O'Brien and Ray Harryhausen. And I think
Well, I
that
figured out why the
Valley of Guanji
feathering.
influence certainly came through the most.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really does look like
We
Guanji.
talked about that. Yeah, we talked about that.
Yep.
Closer to the dinosaur designs of today. By around the 1990s, these animals are postured more correctly, and being post-dinosaur renaissance, they're more bird-like, they're warm-blooded, active, and portrayed as far more intelligent than they have been in the past.
Also, just a thought, but what if the date in a VHS version of this
Kinda ugly, very skinny and toothy.
is the date for Walking with Dinosaurs? Because it also came out in October of 1999.
This is
Oh,
what dinosaurs
makes
looked
sense.
like when I was a kid. These are the dinosaurs I fell in love with. In fact, the biggest inspiration for these designs was the original 1999 BBC Walking with Dinosaurs series.
There it goes!
This is what initially interested me in dinosaurs, and to this day is...
I am accidentally correct.
Ever made by anyone, ever. By the final stage of the film, we catch up to the dinosaur art, science, and media of today.
Oh, I just noticed the nictitating membrane on the eye.
Add up to create vastly more naturalistic looking designs.
Oh, look at the baby! Ah!
The Megalosaurus, for example, is now holding its hands in the correct orientation. The animal is more fleshed out, it has lips and a dozen other things. But the most obvious change here is definitely the addition of feathers. While we have no direct evidence of feathers in Megalosaurus itself, there is a small possible megalosauroid called Sciurimimus, which definitely does.
Oh!
But even regardless of that connection,
I was just
it's
about
just an
to
incredibly
say that,
popular trend to add
'cause I looked it
speculative
up.
feathers to dinosaur designs today, just as shrink wrapping was 20 years ago and tail
So,
was 70
there
years ago.
is proof
So these feathers were
that they might have had
Mhm.
feathers.
to help illustrate our ever-changing views of these animals.
Okay, I shall open mouth and insert foot.
As for my
Please
model
don't.
iguanodon,
Please no.
the animals
I'm not.
are beefier, the beak is fixed, its hands have been totally reworked, and the animals are portrayed as sexually dimorphic. All the adult males of the herd have an extra colour accent around their eyes that the females lack.
And also have, like, a bit of a throat waddle.
It's speculative, but it's exactly the type of thing you see in modern-day paleo reconstructions.
Or is it an individual thing? Because, like, that male didn't have it.
Tagging along with
Might
the
be an
iguanodon
individual
herd, a
thing.
not so subtle nod to the Polacanthus and Walking with Dinosaurs,
Oh!
is a single Hylaeosaurus, looking very different from its opening appearance.
Okay, so this is also inspired by Walking with
Of these
Dinosaurs.
initial three dinosaurs, Hylaeosaurus was the hardest to reconstruct accurately. It is by far the most neglected of the trio when it comes to paleomedia, and by far the one that has been the least studied.
Alright.
The final two animals featured in the film are Clobiodon and Cetiosaurus.
So we were wrong about it being Ramphorhynchus.
Pterosaur and Cetiosaurus
Yep.
is a sauropod dinosaur. I don't have a whole lot to say about these two, they were kind of last minute additions to the film, but one of the two people who redescribed Clobiodon in 2018 is actually a Patreon supporter of mine.
Oh!
I didn't learn until yesterday, so shout out to you, Michael. Thank you for your work, and I hope I did your little pterosaur proud.
Wow, okay.
Cetiosaurus, on the other hand, is of note because it's the first sauropod we ever discovered. In fact, it was named the same year Dinosauria was formed, 1842, but was originally misidentified as a large marine reptile. And because of this, Cetiosaurus likely only just missed out on becoming the fourth founding member of the Dinosauria clade.
Aw,
Oh.
that's a bugger. Oh well.
Lining all of these models up, oldest to newest, you can really see the history of our understanding of these mysterious creatures evolve over the past 200 years. Starting with the initial elephant-like reptiles of the Victorian era, followed by the tail-dragging, lumbering and cold-blooded monsters of the 1900s, then the more active, bird-like and intelligent portrayals of the dinosaur renaissance, and finally, the naturalistic and contemporary depictions of today.
Well done, man.
I absolutely love all of these interpretations and never really wanted to frame any of these outdated depictions as inferior or even really wrong. No, I made this film not to criticise but to celebrate our ever-evolving knowledge of these ancient and fascinating animals. Before I move on to the next segment, I wanted to inform you all that I'll be speaking at DinoCon 2025. This will be a big dinosaur-themed convention which will be held at the University of Exeter in England on August 16th and August 17th. I'll be speaking specifically on the 17th in person about my background, my animation work, my Dinosauria series and everything in between. Feel free to check out the DinoCon 2025 website for more information.
Damn. I had to live in America.
Yeah, I know, right? We need to tell Mooney.
Mix of 2D and 3D animation.
If he hasn't seen it already.
Characters, creatures, and props are
True.
3D models, animated in 3 dimensions, but textured to look as 2-dimensional as possible. The environments these creatures live in, however, are all 2D drawings. Each and every single one of these backdrops must be drawn from scratch every single time the camera moves position.
Jeez, that's gotta be so much work.
Good God.
For this film in particular, I had to create a whopping 15 different character models, which you can see on screen right now. I think this is the most new models I've ever had to create for a single film before. All of which needed to be 3D modeled, rigged, textured and animated in their own specific and unique ways. Likely never to be reused again.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I quite enjoy creating new designs and whipping up new 3D models and rigs, especially when it comes to dinosaurs, so this part of the animation process was quite a lot of fun. Painting all of the 2D backdrops, however, I don't enjoy so much. But thankfully, unlike the character models, these could be reused.
Fair enough.
The
Good point.
Megalosaurus lair, which virtually the entire film is set in, besides colour changes, is the exact same at the start of the film as it is at the end of the film. I did have to account for different aspect ratios for different segments as we switch from like full frame 16:9 to CinemaScope to 4:3 and so on, but honestly I really welcome this challenge. I'm a big film buff, I especially like older cinema, and it was just so fun recreating.
What is this guy's what is this guy's like obsession with like the long tongue iguanodon?
I have no idea.
Like, was that a thing that was widely accepted back in the day?
The music
I
of
guess.
The Terrible Lizards
I
was
can't-
composed by Ivan Dutch, and I genuinely think this is his best work to date. I feel you can absolutely hear echoes of The Rite of Spring featured in Fantasia,
Oh.
33's King Kong, Walking with Dinosaurs, and even the modern big-budget orchestral soundtracks of nature documentaries of today, all in this one score, evolving as the film evolves.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Ivan has even made his own behind-the-scenes video covering how he created the music for this film, which I'll link in the description below. Please do go check out Ivan's work if you haven't already. His YouTube account, his Patreon, his website, his whatever else, because he deserves so much more attention than he gets for his truly fantastic work.
And we'll be checking it out.
They did so well.
It is a beautiful score. All right, evaluation.
I really like this film. It's incredibly different from the other films in the series, and I think it's a really great celebration of our history of dinosaurs. It was also just a lot of fun to make. Being chopped up into 4 distinct, smaller parts made this film much more pleasant to work through than usual. It was just a lot tidier and far less overwhelming this way. I also really enjoyed just drawing so much inspiration from a whole bunch of stuff I love. Movies, books, documentaries, paleo art, and even toys. This film is full of Easter eggs and references to all of my favourite paleo media over the past 2 centuries.
Oh, I see Dinotopia. And Prehistoric Park.
Prehistoric Park.
King Kong, Phil Tippett's Prehistoric Beast,
Titans of
dinosaurs,
yeah.
and so much more.
Cinema.
But I also have a few issues with it. The biggest of which is something I feel I definitely need to discuss. These 2 animals, Megalosaurus and Iguanodon, were actually separated by approximately 40 million years.
There you
Even
go,
though they're
Ty.
often depicted as a
Hey, I
parent
wasn't
to
asking for that.
same country,
Okay.
Megalosaurus is from the Middle Jurassic, and Iguanodon is from the
I was well aware that he probably knew about this.
This inaccuracy was not an oversight, it wasn't a mistake, and the original ending of this film did address it, which I'll show now.
Alright. Oh! Yeah, I guess. What?
You see,
I didn't even
originally,
notice
they
that.
would have Iguanodon and Megalosaurus
That's 'cause that's not the ending.
coexisting, as was often depicted in the 1800s. But by the end of the film, science catches up and puts the herd of Iguanodon into the Cretaceous where they belong. This was the ending of the film almost until release. As you can see, the scene, it's done. It's fully animated, it's fully sound mixed. The reason I removed this scene is because, quite frankly, it's just weird. I feel only huge dinosaur fans would even notice these 2 animals shouldn't be living together, and the other 90% of people watching this film would be totally flabbergasted by the magical disappearing dinosaurs. The main reason I removed this scene is because, even though the film already plays with the rules of reality a little, after watching the finished film, this moment crossed a line into the fantastical for me that completely took me out of the story being told. I did consider having the Megalosaurus just wake up to no Iguanodon at all, just Middle Jurassic, as per usual. But that would not only rob the audience of seeing Hylaeosaurus and Iguanodon evolve into their modern depictions, but would also rob the film of this final shared peaceful moment between these 2 titans of Dinosauria. From a filmmaking perspective, this shared moment between these 2, it's necessary. It completes the story. The film needs this moment. It was never gonna go. So yeah, in the end, I just decided that putting a herd of
Fair play
into the Middle Jurassic was well worth the better filmmaking and the better storytelling. All in all,
Well done.
I do still really like Terrible Lizards. It was fun, it was a good way to kick off the new series, and it's just very different from the rest of the Dinosauria films.
Hello, soulless Dilophosaurus.
Volume 2. In fact, I think the episode coming up next, Hunted by Moonlight, is quite a bit.
Oh, so we know the next short film.
Thank you all so much for watching.
Oh.
I love making dinosaur stuff, and if you want to support me and support all my dinosaur stuff, please check out my Patreon page. I post frequent updates about all my upcoming animated projects over there, including exclusive behind-the-scenes renders and screenshots like the ones I'm showing on screen right now.
That's kind of funny.
And for just $5, you can read through all my sketchbook work I've been showing off in this video as well. All my old sketchbooks are on there too, but I just uploaded the first chunk of this Dinosauria Volume 2 sketchbook, and more will be added as the series goes on.
Holy
Before I go,
merd.
super special thanks to all my top Patreon supporters scrolling by on screen right now. Without all these people, gigantic animated projects like these would not be possible at all. So again, thank you.
So, what do you guys think of the behind the scenes of Terrible Lizard?
A lot of things that we were all very like, oh, that reminded me of this. Oh, that reminded me of that. It's like, oh yeah, that we nailed it.
Yep. The only thing we didn't nail was the fact that wasn't Rampharinkus. It was apparently Globiodon? Clobiodon. There's no... It's with a K, not a G, I think.
Well, I was sitting there going, yep, that's a very small pterosaur. That's the only thing I was doing.
Yeah. I'm also glad that he did acknowledge the fact that Megalosaurus and Iguanodon and Hylaeosaurus did not live together. I wasn't asking for it, but I'm glad he did acknowledge it.
And he did answer the majority of the questions that you had, especially like the feather back on the Megalosaurus.
Yep. And we got to see yet another beautiful sculpture being made.
Yes.
Yes. The highlight, the sculpture, and then
I don't know.
The behind.
I feel like the two things I look forward to most of all about these making of videos is the sculpture and the featured species, because we get to learn more about like the animals.
Yes, definitely.
And I like the part where he shows where he gets the information from.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we're ready to now check out Ivan Dutch's making of video, which goes a little bit more into the making of the musical score. So let's go ahead and give that a watch. 2 reactions in one video. I am spoiling you rotten.
Back in 2022, I received an email from David. He was looking for music for what would become Sauria, and the moment I saw his work, I knew I wanted to be part of that work. His ability to weave story, animating, editing, and sound into cohesive emotional experience is pure mastery. And the more I watch his movies, I realize how detail-oriented he is. There's so much happening in the background that one usually misses on the first watch. And as a music composer, I get to watch a film again and again and again. And it's incredible. And it always inspires my music as well, how detail-oriented he is with his narrative and his animation and every aspect of filmmaking. Collaborating with someone so technically brilliant and yet so easy to work with has been one of the most rewarding artistic journeys of my life. From the highlands of Scotland to my little studio in Argentina, Dinosauria became a bridge, not just across continents, but between two storytellers. And this is the story of how the music was made.
Alright. Let's see what they got to say. 1842.
The first piece I had to write for Terrible Lizards was for the year 1842, when dinosaurs were still creatures of myth. And this was long before movies, of course, and they were imagined as terrifying, towering monsters. And I wanted the music to reflect that.
The Iguanodon is just like a dragon
from the Romantic period, but also feel mysterious, almost primal. And I went back and forth trying to find that sound in my head. In the end, I leaned into that pounding feeling, a relentless pulse carried by the orchestra and brought to life by the amazing musicians who recorded it.
Cellist. Okay.
That driving energy became the backbone of that
It's just like it was recorded in a Discord
call. The bigger challenge, though, was the whole soundtrack. I needed a clear concept, something that could evolve with each era David had written into the film. At some point, I told David I'd approach it just like he did, with a unique aesthetic for each period. But musically, that meant digging deep into not just composition, but how each era sounded, from the instruments to the recording technology, composition, mixing, mastering. It had all to reflect the specific time. To tie it all together, I needed a strong connected element, and it took me a while to realize what it had to be, but that became the theme.
Alright. Why does it sound like Everest from Abominable?
No.
Because of the cello.
This also reminds me of Anastasia.
At first, I connected the theme to the iguanodon, which appears at the start. And in this particular cue, 1842, the theme is sort of suggested, very minimally, and it evolves with each passing era. But it really took me a while to find it, and once I had it, I could begin weaving it into every era like a thread through history.
Again, this
The
music
moment
really
I saw
reflects the
how
time.
David animated the 1933 segment, something clicked. It instantly took me back to my childhood, to afternoons spent watching my grandfather's worn-out VHS copy of the original King Kong. That memory came flooding back, and I knew if I wanted to honor the world David had brought to life, I had to give it everything I had. Musically, I turned to Max Steiner, one of the founding fathers of film scoring. His work on King Kong was a huge influence, but somehow my love for the old 1941 Superman cartoon crept into as well.
Ooh.
Those heroic brass lines, the rhythm, that larger-than-life feel, it all felt right. That era has a very particular language, a vocabulary that is very particular to that era, and I had to research into that and actually get the hang of that as well. I recorded 2 fantastic cellists and a trumpet player for this particular cue, which gave the orchestra this vibrant classic energy.
Alright. Yeah.
The
That
performance
sounds
brought
like
the whole thing to life, and it's amazing
like
how much of a
1950s
difference
like
the real
kind of
player
music.
makes when you're using also virtual instruments. In a way, I think live players bring to the table what actors bring to a script. I mean, the performance is always different, it's always human, and it's amazing and a privilege to have worked with these amazing players for this soundtrack.
Alright. And what, did they just improvise everything, or is he like putting it all together?
He's putting it all together.
Even the mix had to follow the era, and I started in mono, just like a recording from the 30s. And slowly opened it up into a stylized stereo image, following David's transitions into each star for each era. This was the dawn of Hollywood's Silver Age and of dinosaurs also becoming legends on the big screen. And back then, dinosaurs weren't treated like animals. They were icons, monsters, myths. And I think David Animation captured that era with such charm and detail. It brought me right back to those afternoons as a kid, eyes wide open, falling in love with stories told in black and white.
Dead. But not really.
If If 1933
October
was
4th.
the beginning of dinosaurs on screen, then the 90s was the era that crowned them as legends. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with dinosaurs.
I'm gonna have to look up
It
Walking
all
with
reached a
Dinosaurs
whole
release
new
date.
level when I won tickets for my entire family to see Jurassic Park at the cinema. I was around 9, and that experience burned into my memory. David's depiction of the 90s era hit me right in the heart. The specific tone of awe, of science meets cinema, and of dinosaurs being presented as the sentient animals they were for the first time. I knew I had to lean into those emotions. So I made the theme as grand and heroic as I could. Maybe even a little bit over the top, just like the era, and big brass lines, soaring strings, and that sort of thing. I wanted the score to feel like a documentary and an adventure movie at the same time. I recorded a trumpet player and a cellist for this particular cue, and the trumpet especially helped push the music into that bold, epic space. This was a time when dinosaurs were no longer monsters, but majestic creatures.
Again,
Noble.
it
David
reflects.
captured the shift perfectly. The way they moved.
I'm sorry we're not commenting much on this, but like, I don't really know that much about music, so I can't really comment on much.
In a dark cinema.
No, well, I understand it to a certain degree. I mean, listen to the music and see how the music invokes, like, the adventure.
And finally, we arrive in 2025,
and those types of things.
The present. The culmination of David's love letter to both dinosaurs and cinema. For this final chapter, I wanted the music to reach a climax, a very emotional ending, portraying our love for cinema but also our perception of dinosaurs as full sentient beings, capable of deep emotion and deserving of our respect as any other animal on this earth. Scenes are introduced for the first time here, and I was incredibly lucky to work with two amazing singers who gave this segment a sense of intimacy and scale. Their voices actually helped the soundtrack find its much-needed emotional peak at the ending.
And just like that, my eardrums have been ruptured. Oh no. Like, she's not a bad singer, but like, I have my headphones way up.
Yeah.
This was a huge thank you to David, but also to every filmmaker who's ever brought wonder to the screen. Filmmakers who bring magic to our lives and introduce us to a world of wonder, reflection, and joy. Throughout the process, my wife and daughter support me in ways I'll never forget. My daughter, she's 8, actually helped pick the singers, and my wife and daughter lent their ears and gave me amazing feedback for the music while it was still taking shape. More than once,
That's awesome.
The intuition led to a better decision that I couldn't have thought of by myself. And of course, thank you to the wonderful musicians who brought this music to life, who inspired me with their performance. To my patrons and supporters who believe in my work and make it possible. To David's amazing audience for letting me share a piece of this journey with you. And finally, a huge thanks to David himself for trusting me while writing this soundtrack, for inspiring the music, and for being such an amazing filmmaker and human being. Thank you.
Wow. Alright. Alright. Not bad, sir. Not bad at all. So that was behind the music of Terrible Lizards. Again, it's kind of hard to follow along because I'm not a musician myself, but after hearing the soundtrack and, you know, watching the short film itself, you could tell that this guy gave it 110% to compose such an amazing score for the Dinosauria series. And I hope he's got more of them to come.
Yeah, no kidding. I was not expecting the Superman serials. as an inspiration. I really wasn't. I mean, I understand why he used them, but I was not expecting it.
Honestly, though, I cannot wait to see where it goes from here.
Yep. Well, I guess if that's it, that's where we're going to wrap it up. If you enjoyed it and you look forward to when we react to the next Dinosauria short film, which I guess is Hunted in Moonlight, or whatever it was, leave a like, subscribe today, hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything new. All my links are in the link tree in the description down below. And until next time, this is Tyrannus and my friend signing off. Alrighty then. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Bye.